So it's 7:08, and I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:08. And I do apologize to the public for a bit of a delay. We are having some technical difficulties, and so we will all be joining shortly. I would like to acknowledge that we are on Mississauga First Nation land. And prior to this evening's agenda, I would ask that each councillor who is present via this video conferencing to answer the roll call when I call your name. Deputy Mayor Summers.
Here.
Councillor B. Dunbar.
Present.
Councillor Wells.
Present.
Councillor Roy.
Present.
Councillor Pastorero.
Present.
Thank you. Well, the days are definitely getting shorter and there's a touch of coolness in the air. And we saw the children heading back to school, and people young and young at heart are getting used to wearing masks, being more diligent about hand washing, and continued social distance. I personally have noticed less phone calls and more texting. Just a reminder, our mental health is every bit as important as our physical health. And I would encourage everyone to continue to reach out, call a friend, as these small acts go a long way. And the foundation of your happiness is gratitude. So remember to commit to thinking about 3 things every day that you're grateful for. We live in one of the best communities, and I personally am grateful for this council, our staff, and the residents each and every day. And I thank you for your time and your commitment to tonight's agenda. And I have a motion from Councillor B.A. Dunbar, seconded by Councillor Roy. Be it resolved that council approve the agenda as presented. All in favor? And carried. Thank you. And are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move on. I have a motion from Councillor Pastorero, seconded by Councillor B. Dunbar. Be it resolved that council adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting of August 10th, 2020, and the minutes of the special council meeting August 17th, 2020, as presented. All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. And did council see anything that they wanted to discuss out of the minutes as they have been presented? And seeing none, we will move on then to public presentations, of which we have none tonight. So we're going to our administrative report. The first one is 9.1, and this is in relationship to committee meetings. And I have a motion from Councillor B. Dunbar, seconded by Councillor Roy, whereas council passed resolution number 20-163 at the June 15th, 2020 regular council meeting, suspending committee meetings until September 2020. Therefore, be it resolved that council authorize the CAO clerk to resume scheduling regular committee meetings via Zoom until the province lifts its suspension on reopening issued September 8th, 2020. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor of this motion? Opposed? And that's carried. We have an information update from the CAO clerk with regards to the 2020 grant tracking update. Are there any questions for Ms. Scott on this agenda item? And seeing none, we can move on to 9.3. The deputy clerk has presented us with information on the group benefit renewal. And I have a motion from Councillor B. Dunbar, seconded by Councillor Roy. Be it resolved that council authorize the renewal of group benefits with Equitable Life for the 2020-21 term at a decrease of $5,400 annually. Discussion? Councillor Wells?
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. I'm just wondering if our treasurer could explain to me why there has been a decrease of 3.85%. I just wondered if it has something to do with regard to the pandemic or a change in coverage.
Madam Mayor, our treasurer is off this evening. So with regard to
We can't hear you.
with regard to the benefits, it is due to lack of use during this time, during COVID.
We're sharing microphones here. And did you hear that correctly, HP? No? Okay, we're gonna try something else to make sure everybody can hear.
Councillor Roy, can you hear me now? Hot tea.
Not gonna work that way.
Maybe Mayor Hagman could relay the same comment that you just said, Ms. Scott.
So the decrease was because of COVID, essentially. So basically what I've been told from our deputy clerk is that a number of practitioners weren't working, so they weren't using the benefits. Are there any other questions on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. From the treasurer, we have a provincial funding announcement, and I have a motion from Councillor Posterero, seconded by Councillor Roy. Be it resolved that council accept the provincial funding announcements report and that staff be directed to allocate these funds as per the program guidelines and reporting requirements, and that in the event that the town's costs and pressures exceed the phase 1 amount, staff apply for phase 2 funding. And discussion. Seeing no hands going up, all in favor of this motion? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. And again, from our treasurer, information around the arena boiler funding resolution. I have a motion from Councillor Jay Dunbar, seconded by Councillor Roy. Be it resolved that council approve the transfer of $127,305.67 from the modernization reserve for emergency repairs to the arena community center for heating and water systems. Discussion. Councillor Dunbar? Your mute is on. Councillor Dunbar, your mute is still on.
He's saying he can't unmute it.
Can't unmute it. Okay, well, Councillor Dunbar is trying to unmute his. Councillor Wells, did you have any questions on this item?
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. If memory serves me correctly, we had a problem with the boiler at the arena last November, December, which required an emergency repair. And I think the money was used from the 2020 budget to effect those repairs. So what I'm wondering now is since we use 2020 budget money to do the repair work, are we now simply transferring money from the modernization fund back into the budget to just in one hand and out the other type of thing? Is that what's happening?
I will defer your comment to Ms. Scott. I remember that the boiler went down just prior to Valentine's Day, as there was a dance that was to occur at that time. So right now, Ms. Scott has left the room. She's just trying to get her computer set up in another room so we're not making funny noises back and forth. And we'll see where she is with that one. And while we're waiting, Councillor Jay Dunbar.
Is the mute on off?
The mute is off.
Perfect. Has the repairs been completed to the boiler?
I will defer those comments to Ms. Bittner, who is in this conference call right now. And Ms. Bittner, could you answer Councillor Dunbar's question? I'm seeing Ms.
Oh.
Bittner. Go ahead.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes,
Oh,
please.
perfect. Okay.
Yes.
I think I'm having the same challenge as Councillor Jim Dunbar was having too. So I can answer both of the questions if you'd like. We're still here? Okay.
You have a lot of revive there, Karen.
Okay, we're going to take a short recess because technical problems, and please stay on and we'll get back to you.
Okay, let's see if first. The modernization funding has been used since the beginning. However, the treasurer needs an official resolution in order to do her final reporting to the province. That was outlined in all of the reports that were already submitted to council. However, Ms. Dent does need the official resolution to be able to supply. And for Councillor Jim Dunbar, all of the repairs are complete, including the insulation we were waiting on. It was back ordered. The plumbers were at the arena approximately a month ago and completed the last portion of the work. So I am pleased to report all of the lowered energy requirements that the arena had boasted in a previous report, that we were going to be moving forward and being more green, can be achieved this season.
Thank you, Ms. Bittner. Are there any other questions with regards to this motion? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. Getting a little bit of playback still. We're suggesting a 5-minute break, council, so please stand by before we go to the next question so that we're not killing the ear of our public. Thank you. Technical difficulties, eh? River, our sincere apologies for our technical difficulties tonight. We were on 9.5, the arena boiler funding resolution, and council had agreed to that. We're moving on to the Director of Public Services, the Hazardous Waste Day report from 2020. And does anyone have any questions for Mr. Bender? Councillor Wells?
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. Not a question exactly, but I'm really pleased to see, having previously served as a member of the Ecological Resource Committee, that we had a very successful household hazardous waste day, and that there were 211 vehicles involved, in vehicles from our community regional partners as well. And I'm not sure if all residents are aware of this, but there are now collection pails at the landfill in the hazardous waste shipping container for single-use batteries, and I've made use of that already. So there were comments made about having the hazardous waste day every year, but obviously that it is a fairly significant expense to the community, but it certainly would be beneficial if in the future we could probably have an annual collection day.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to 9.7, again from the Director of Public Services, Murray Street Sidewalk Project. I have a motion from Councillor Guerrero, seconded by Councillor Roy. Be it resolved that council accept the additional capital work for the Murray Street Sidewalk Project in the amount of $35,050, and that the unused capital funds assigned to the Connecting Link project be allocated to the Murray Street project. Discussion. All in favor of this motion? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. From the Director of Protective Services, we have a report on off-road vehicles. And I have a motion from Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Summers. Be it resolved that council not make changes to our off-road vehicles bylaw to allow ORMs or XTVs or on public roads. So that would be for all ATVs on public roads. Discussion. Councillor Roy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just like to say, I'm pleased to say to see that we're not changing this, or that we're going to vote on this. But I'd also like to see, and I brought this up a long time ago, I'd like to see a speed limit sign for ATVs and off-roaders, because I don't think that they know that the speed limit is, I think it's 20 kilometers through town with a four-wheeler. They're going just as fast as vehicles, if not faster. So at least if they had a sign or two around town, maybe it would keep them honest. And if it didn't, well, then they can't say they didn't know if they do get stopped. So I'd like to see that added to, I guess, into our bylaw.
Thank you. Other comments? And seeing none, all in favor of this motion? Opposed? And that's carried. From the Director of Facilities and Community Services, the fall student positions, we received an update. And are there any questions for Ms. Bittner on that update? Seeing none, again, from the Director of Facilities and Community Services, the final CDOC report. Are there any questions for Ms. Bittner on her report? Seeing none, from the Director of Facilities and Community Service, the accessibility walkway. I have a motion from Councillor B. Dunbar, seconded by Councillor J. Dunbar. Be it resolved that council recognizes efficiencies have been found with several capital projects, thus resulting in further opportunity within 2020 to advance accessibility, and that council approves the $10,000 from the Future Project Reserves Funds to update walkways at the Marine Park to ensure safe, permanent, and accessible product open to all members of the public. Discussion. All in favor of this motion? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. And from the Director of Facilities and Community Services, the food delivery report. It's an information item. Are there any questions from Council to Ms. Bittner? Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. I'd just like to thank the Director of Facilities for responding to my question that I asked at the previous council meeting by preparing this report. And that's all the information I was really looking for. Was I just wanted to know that, and as people may be aware now, that there were 139 people who took advantage of the food delivery program. And I think that was an important contribution by our community during the early stages of the pandemic.
Absolutely. Staff can be applauded for carrying that forward on behalf of the municipality. And another information item from the Director of Facilities and Community Services on the Young Fox Trail. Are there any questions for Ms. Bittner on this agenda item? And seeing none. 9.14, the Environmental Partnership. I have a motion from Councillor J. Dunbar, seconded by Councillor B. Dunbar. Be it resolved that council supports community-focused initiatives that promote volunteerism and is a critical component of a healthy community, and that council is aware of community wishes to protect pollinators, specifically monarch butterflies and their host milkweed plants. As such, council approves designated marine park spaces for the Blind River Horticultural Society to plant milkweed seeds in the spring of 2021, and that this project is designed to establish a monarch protection space for all to enjoy and learn, and that in the event the property requires growth control measures and maintenance, that this occur after resident monarchs have developed. Discussion? All in favor of this motion? Opposed? And that's carried. I had lots of monarchs on my milkweed this summer, so I know everybody really enjoys them as well. From the Director of Facilities and Community Services, we have an arena report, and I have a motion from Councillor Posterero, seconded by Councillor Summers. Be it resolved that Council approve the safe reopening of the Blind River Arena once health and safety processes are implemented that ensure public and staff safety, and that all user groups provide the town of Blind River with their individual return to play strategy, and that the municipality will act in accordance with guidelines in place by Algoma Public Health, as well as the Chief Medical Officer of Health, as our provincial emergency device. Discussion. Councillor Roy, followed by Councillor Jay Dunbar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not going to be supporting this. I don't think that we're ready. I understand that there is some, we've got a plan in place, but there's been plans in place all over the country. Just today, Teresa Tam, the doctor, Chief Public Health Officer, she said that there's rising cases of COVID all across our country, and it's not a good sign. There was a wedding on the weekend, and 20 cases near Toronto. Karaoke bar in Quebec, 40 cases and 10 more after they went home. We've lost deaths in Ontario, 2,816. It could happen anywhere. We're inviting people from out of town to come in. And the next item is going to be, I'll be on the same path as this, because we shouldn't be bringing in people into this town or allowing gatherings like even our what is it, Doug Ford today said that he pleads for people to avoid gatherings. We aren't there yet. And yes, he has allowed gatherings of 50 people indoors, but the problem is he says it only if they're essential. And I understand that, I'm not going to be looked upon favorably by a lot of hockey fans, a lot of skating fans, but I'm going to ask for a recorded vote on this one, and I will not be voting for it.
Thank you, Councillor Roy. Councillor Jay Dunbar, followed by Councillor Posterero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Looking at the report, I thought the confirmation list was rather impressive, but it does lack a solid confirmation from two of our biggest revenues over there, and that would be the BRMHA and the NOJHL. Now, September the 4th, the NOHA set out a few protocols in place, and it's been directed by Health Canada. An example is if hockey is going to be played, it will mean 50 players per league. Players will need to show up dressed at the arena for games. No more than 50 people in the arena at one time, including staff. Now, I'll give you an example of an NOJHL team where they may have 20 players on each team. There's a total of 40 people right off the bat. Now, just for the sake of arguing, I believe it's fiscally responsible that we have an impressive list, that we have an impressive list of confirmation on this report, but the two largest groups aren't there yet. As we all know, a rink never makes a profit, okay? And I realize that. And probably no rink makes a profit, but they do subsidize with taxpayers' money a percentage. And I haven't seen any of these percentages provided. And as an example is that revenue would come in and maybe the municipality subsidizes 70, 60, 80%, whatever the case may be. I don't have those numbers in front of me, and I don't have those numbers on the report to look at. So I'm not trying to convince council or plead a case of not opening the rink. But I would like to defer maybe this opening. We have a chance, and we don't get it very often, to save some money here. And I'd like to defer this here, maybe opening till October or November, or until we get a solid confirmation from these two hockey leagues. And I think we should take the opportunity whenever we can to be fiscally responsible to our taxpayers. And I personally would not vote for this as it stands, but I would like to see it deferred to a future date, this opening of the arena.
Thank you, Councillor Dunbar. Councillor Pastorero, followed by Councillor Wells.
I don't know if it's just me. Am I missing the intent of this resolution? Because the resolution is saying that once health and safety processes are implemented, and that the municipality will act in accordance with guidelines in place by Algoma Public Health, as well as the CM, and as well as provincial emergency evolves. So we did hear Mr. Ford say that he's pausing the reopening. So that means that we wouldn't be instantly opening our arena. We would still be conscious of being safety first. I think this is saying that once it's available to reopen it, that we would definitely want to do so, but again, putting health and safety first. I know that there's many people in the community that are eager to get some recreation. And from what I read in the report is that it would be in these safe bubbles. For example, the Beavers, which many of my students, and I know they'll be returning to class and from all around Canada, basically wanting to, at some point, get on the ice. And from what I hear, they're doing training and skills. So we're not saying that we're going to reopen and have a free-for-all with games and lots of fans right away. My reading of this motion is that we are going to be responsible, but that we do want to open it as soon as it's possible to do so safely. Because those are the words that are in there. Once health and safety processes are implemented and following the guidelines of all the medical health officers. So as this motion reads to me, I don't have a problem with it because I do wish that everyone is safe and healthy. But I also want to allow our residents the ability to have recreational activities in their safe bubbles. So it's talking about private family renting of the arena. So again, I would assume that would be in their safe bubble. And teams, they're already working and training together. So they are in a bubble. So as this reads, I don't know if I'm misinterpreting it. We are putting safety first, but we're just looking for the possibility of open.
I think my major concern is that we also need to be responsible in terms of the health and safety of the residents of our community. If we were to receive a commitment from our junior A team and from our minor hockey association that they are able to return to some sort of play at the arena, then I think it may be possible to consider a reopening. But I also think that and I know that I read the report and that health and safety steps have already been either implemented or they're outlined in the report in terms of cleaning of the arena and so on. But I think that it might be an expensive proposition for our ratepayers to operate the arena just for an occasional family gathering or a Friday afternoon skate. I really do think that we need to be prudent here in terms of both the taxpayers and the safety of our community. And that if we could, as Councillor Dunbar suggested, a deferral to maybe October, November, perhaps it would be better to say a deferral until we have some sort of commitment from the Junior A team and from the Minor Hockey Association as to what their plans are.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Summers?
I'm in agreement with, thank you, Mayor Hagman. I'm in agreement with Councillor Pastorero. I took the report the same way that she did, in that we won't be doing anything until things are safe and the opening will be able to be done correctly. I think it's really important to have something going on in this town for the winter. It's a really long time with nothing to do, and if you can have something that the residents can take part in, I think that helps with mental health as well. I know it's costly, but I do believe we've probably hopefully been able to save in other places because of things that we haven't been able to do all year long. So I would tend to think I would like to see that we would be able to go ahead with it. That would be my thought. And as far as deferring, like, I don't think we're looking at opening anytime soon, but they have to be prepared and have things in place so that when it's time to open, that we're ready to go.
And Ms. Bittner, is there anything else you wish to add to your report?
Testing. Ooh, ooh. Sorry about that. It's not my place to guide council in either direction, rather provide details. We did have multiple recreation entities open this summer that drew people from near and far. And whether it was the golf course or the marina, there were no deferrals. When it comes to ice sports, we like to think of Blind River as having two seasons, winter and not winter. For many of the people on the call who work in mental health, healthcare, taking care of the community, the winter lows are low. We see that at the arena. The arena also provides cost-effective meals to families that can't otherwise afford them. It's a space for kids to come in and feel like equals through subsidized sport. It's a place where families can come and use subsidized rentals that they would never be able to access in larger communities. What I will say, if you close or choose to defer opening too late, what you're doing is pushing your residents to larger centers, which is exactly what you're trying to avoid. I'm going to strongly suggest that the people of Blind River have access to recreation for mental health, wellness, and consistency. Our families are craving getting back to normal in whatever capacity we can provide. Our residents have gone without consistency since March 8th, when the province tore the rug out from underneath everyone through this pandemic. This is no fault of our own. This is no fault of the municipality. This is no fault of the residents of Blind River. What we are asking is for guidance from council to allow us to create a safe space, just like our hospital, our golf course, our marina, our food bank, our dentist offices, and our schools have done. We cannot prepare without knowing that we have the guidance and direction of our council. The decision rests with you. We'll follow whatever council deems, but the resolution and recommendation are designed exactly how Councillor Pastorero outlined. We are not looking to open tomorrow. We are looking to prepare a safe space for the municipality. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Ms. Bittner. And to you, Ms. Scott?
Just wanted to follow up with that, something that we neglected to mention was that we did have a meeting with Algoma Public Health here at Town Hall on Friday. So our emergency coordinator contact through Algoma Public Health did come to council chambers to view council chambers to see if we were able to have in chamber sessions, which on a night like tonight with all of our little glitches would be really nice to have. But she advised against that with our current setup. We did run through opening the arena and how that would look. And she provided us with really great guidance, great guidelines, best practices, and how that would happen. She's also advised that they are working with our local minor hockey division to see how that's going to look. It is going to look different. It isn't going to be the same as it's always been in what we're used to seeing. But there would be bubbles for teams. There could not be any more than 50 players at any time, but they do have their guidelines in place and how that would look. I'm not suggesting that we open anytime soon either. I'm cautiously aware and moving slowly, especially with the announcement today from our premier. However, we wouldn't be able to just turn a switch and open up the arena. We would have to be prepared for that. And we also need to be able to work with those user groups to assist them in making those changes. So this isn't going to be an overnight opening. This would be over time. And it will give us the time to work with both the Blind River Beaver team as well as the minor hockey division on how they are going to roll it out effectively. All of that will be looked at against our numbers prior to reopening and brought back to council.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Has council heard enough information to make a decision? Councillor Roy, followed by Councillor Wills.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If we're just looking at a plan, that's completely different. The way I read it was we are opening. So if we're going to look at a plan and then it's going to come back to council before we do anything, then I would be in favor. I'd still like to record a vote on it, but I think I could change my mind just because it is worded differently than what I read.
Thank you, Councillor Roy. Councillor Wells.
I think probably that was my observation too. If we pass this motion this evening, we're not talking about the immediate installation of the ice or the immediate opening up. So we're simply looking at implementing a plan, but that I'm assuming will still come back to council before we go ahead with the final opening of the arena, or are we giving permission now this evening to go ahead with the opening of the arena once it's deemed suitable to do so?
I may be able to answer that for you, Councillor Wells. The second part of the motion says, and that the municipality will act in accordance with guidelines in place by Algoma Public Health, as well as the Chief Medical Officer of Health, as our provincial emergency evolves. So in other words, we are following the guidance of the province with the opening of our arena. Councillor Jay Dunbar.
So back to what Councillor Wells' question was asking was, if this was to be voted on and passed, does this not mean the immediate putting in of the ice? Yes or no?
I'm going back to Ms. Bittner for her answer on that.
Testing. Oh, my goodness, I'm sorry. No, it does not mean the immediate installation of the ice. All of our user groups, Councillor Dunbar, still have a lot of homework to do. Our senior men's groups, our regular groups, figure skating, etc., in addition to the rest. In the recommendation, it states that they have to provide the municipality with their plan. So once we have guidance that we are going to be opening, once it's safe to do so, these groups now can get to work. This isn't going to happen overnight. We know our associations are made up of volunteers. It would be unfair to ask for all of this information in 24 hours or 48 hours. At the very earliest, we would be at the beginning of October for opening the doors. But again, that's if all of the groups get us their information and the year makes sense to operate.
Councillor Roy?
I still don't think the question was answered. Is this coming back to council once the information is brought in by the different user groups? Because we want to know that we still have the last say on this. I mean, we don't, and I think Councillor Wells, Councillor Dunbar asked the same question. I know Ms. Scott said that, but Ms. Bittner didn't just say that, and I'm concerned about that. I want to make certain that that's the way it's intended, that it's coming back to council, and then I can make a proper decision on this.
To put in the ice.
And turning it over to Ms. Scott.
Yes, to answer that question and to clarify what Ms. Bittner is saying, before she can go back out to the user groups and ask them to dedicate many hours into preparing plans, there needed to be some appetite from council that you would be willing to open the arena this season. If council votes on this resolution, she can then go back to those user groups and ask them that, yes, you need to put the work into preparing the plans, get them ready, get it back to Ms. Bittner to review. We would then take it to Algoma Public Health and have them review the plans of each team as they wish to roll out their season and have the guidance from them to bring to council. So have Algoma Public Health review the plans, then bring it to council with APH's recommendations prior to the ice going in.
Thank you, Ms. Scott.
So there you would have the final say. We can attempt to have these all back to us by the next council meeting in September. And if council then is happy with the plans that are presented, we could then commence the ice installation in October.
And Councillor Wells?
I'm wondering if I could propose an amendment to the resolution, an additional line that says something to the effect, and prior to the, I'm sorry, how did I think this? And once plans have been made, guidelines are in place, and the user groups have ensured that we have their policies in place, then it's brought back to council for council to approve for the reopening of the arena, something like that. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to make it up on the fly here, but an addendum, another addendum to the motion so that it comes back to council for final approval before the opening actually takes place.
Do you need a seconder to that amendment?
Just want to make sure everyone is okay with the amendment.
Yes, Councillor Dunbar, that should be a seconder to an amendment to a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, so I heard you say once guidelines are in place and user group strategies have been approved by council, then the ice would go in. Is your-
Was it-
No,
User
no,
group,
sorry.
user groups won't be approved by council. The user groups have to be approved by further up, like their NOJHL. And
Have been approved by APH. Councillor Wells?
The first part of that sounded fine to me, but the conclusion didn't. I'm asking for it to be brought back to council, for council to approve the reopening of the arena. Once the guidelines are in place and that everything is okay with all these other groups, and it comes back to us for final approval.
So I've changed it to say, council will then approve the arena opening.
can you read it?
I can read the whole motion to you to make sure everyone's okay with that, all right? Okay, so it says, be it resolved, the council approves the safe reopening of the Blind River Arena once health and safety processes are implemented that ensure public and staff safety, and that all user groups provide the town of Blind River their individual return to play strategy, and that the municipality will act in accordance with the guidelines in place by Algoma Public Health, as well as the Chief Medical Officer of Health, as our provincial emergency evolves. Once guidelines are in place and user group strategies have been approved, council will then approve the arena opening. Councillor Postrero?
Okay, I hope I'm not coming off as disrespectful, but again, I find that this is sounding like a tinge of micromanaging. What
No.
this resolution is stating is that once it's safe to do so, following the guidelines of Algoma Public Health, the Chief Medical Officer, the provincial emergency as it evolves, or our Premier, it sounds like we're not trusting our operations group to do the best thing. Like, I think Ms. Bittner was quite clear that all of these organizations individually have to have the return to play a safe strategy, as well as the approval of the Algoma Public Health. I'm just concerned that we're not trusting in our operations, and like this resolution is saying, again, we're not opening tomorrow. We're opening when it's safe to do so. So I think forcing it to come back to council with the exact same resolution for a double check is kind of like that. We're not trusting in our operations team. I don't know. I'm just concerned with the micromanaging that's going on.
Thank you, Councillor Postrero. Councillor Roy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm more concerned with the people of this town or people from out of town who may contract this COVID-19. And the other thing is, this is all on our back. We are responsible for all of this. So you can say that we don't, we're not trusting in the guidance that you know, that Ms. Bittner has given us, or that maybe all the different organizations are coming together with, but there's schools that have already reopened that have COVID cases in them. We've seen, you know, weddings and so on, and they were all going by the guidelines. They're coming from everywhere. So you can say they're working in a bubble, and that's all great. But the problem is that bubble is those 20 hockey players, let's say. But then they have parents, they have brothers and sisters who have seen other people, who have touched other people, who have been in contact with. And that's where the bubble doesn't work. So I'm being very careful. I'm staying on the side of caution, and it's for the safety of the people of this town. You can see this mental health. I've got mental health issues. I know what this is all about. I don't go out on the ice, but I do have to exercise. I do have to do things. I understand where you're coming from on that, but we can't just say, oh, we have to, have to take care of mental health. We have to take care of our people. So they may have to find something different to do in the winter, perhaps skiing or whatever. They're outdoor activities, but I can't see reopening the arena. And I understand we're still talking about, making a plan here. But all I want to see is I want to see the plan come back to council, because we still have this burden on our back if something goes wrong.
I see a lot of hands going up, so we'll start with Councillor Pastorero, Councillor Wells, and Councillor Dunbar. And then hopefully we're ready for a recorded vote. Councillor Pastorero.
I just wanted to say that respectfully, all of us are concerned with the residents in our community not contracting COVID. And as an education worker, I know all about that. And unfortunately, those bubbles that are bursting, and it's due to lack of funding, that many of these cases are developing. And again, also people not adhering to health and safety protocols. We are blessed up in Northern Ontario to not, in Blind River, not have any cases. So I just want to say that we're definitely all concerned with our residents and the fact that we do not want anyone here to get COVID. But also I just want to ensure that we're not micromanaging. And this resolution, as it's read, states that safety is first, and we will listen to the advice of the health experts before going forward. So I just want to say that we definitely all care about every resident in our community and nobody contracting COVID.
Thank you, Councillor Pastorero. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. Personally, I don't see this as micromanaging. I understand that we have all these other agencies who are going to be providing us with advice. I know that staff has worked very hard to prepare a plan for the reopening of the arena, but ultimately I think what it involves is that it's a shifting of responsibility to where it belongs, and that's back to council. Because as Councillor Roy said, ultimately we are responsible as councillors, as a council, for the well-being of the community. And it's similar and in some ways to the Water Act, where we are responsible for the safety of water in the community and we're liable if problems occur. So I think that we should step up and say that at the end of the day, we will shoulder the responsibility for the opening or the closing of the arena once all the information is provided to council.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Dunbar.
And again, I'll second the amendment to that motion of bringing it back after all the required established stuff is done in this motion.
And
That's it.
And that's duly noted. Is council ready for a recorded vote? Saying yes, I'm going to pass over the motion to our deputy clerk. Ms. Walsh, would you like to take this from me? Can you take it? Or Ms. Scott, would you like to take the recorded vote?
Councillor J. Dunbar.
Me?
Yes.
Okay, in favor.
Deputy Mayor Summers.
In favor.
Councillor B.A. Dunbar.
In favor.
Councillor S. Wells.
I'm in favor of the motion as amended.
Councillor Roy.
In favor of the motion as amended.
Councillor Pastorero.
In favor.
Mayor Hagman.
In favor.
That's carried.
And thank you for that. The next motion that we have is from the Director of Facilities and Community Services, re the Espanola Ice rental. I have a motion from Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor J. Dunbar. Be it resolved that council approve a one-time fee adjustment for the Espanola Express Junior A Hockey Club for ice used during 2020-2021, and that this fee be set at $88 $12.50 per hour plus HST for the ice use between 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday, and that payment be made upfront for ice usage prior to team use. Discussion. Councillor Roy and then Councillor Dunbar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess this one I'd probably be in favor with because it's going to be after we've dealt with the last the last deal that we, wasted half an hour or more on. Didn't waste, we dealt with.
Good discussion.
Yeah, we discussed. Thank you. So anyways, I think that it's not bad. I'm wondering why we're going to reduce the fee by that much. I think that the fee was pretty much double that, and I could be wrong, but it just seems like a lot lower fee. And I mean, is it even worth our while to have an $88.50 ice rental for an hour? Because I mean, we still have our staff there. You have to clean up afterwards and so on. I don't know. I mean, I'm just asking that.
And I believe the answer to that was because of the high cost of busing for the team to get to Blind River, and they needed to get some practices in. Councillor Jay Dunbar?
Well, that was one of the, thank you for answering that, Madam Mayor. I didn't realize the buses were becoming a problem, but it goes back to my point. Also, I'd like to see revenue made at that marina, at that arena, excuse me, wherever possible. That is a great sum of money we put into the budget for that building, and any opportunity that I see that we can bring in a little extra revenue, I'd like to take it. But I'm okay. I see how this offsets the bus fees with this year motion.
And Councillor Jay Postriero?
Although it's a moot point if we don't open the arena. What I'm reading is that they would fill the slots that are not taken. My question would be then, if there was a full paying person that wished to book ice time during these allotted times, would they be bumped? Because if they just want to fill unused ice time, if someone wanted that ice time and was willing to pay the full fee, would they then be bumped to a different time?
Would you like me to answer that question?
Yes, please, Ms. Bittner.
Sure. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councilor Postriero. Because of the scheduling that goes into the busing, and the junior A teams are very consistent in their practice pattern, the coach would likely outline their practices weeks at a time, and we would schedule around that. It's easy based on past usage to somewhat guess which pockets have gone consistently unused, so we can book them in those slots.
Thank you, Ms. Bittner. Are there any other comments for discussion, questions? And seeing none, all in favor of this motion? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. And from the Director of Facilities and Community Services, the Community Support Worship, are there any questions for Ms. Bittner on her report? And seeing none, again from the Director of Facilities and Community Services, read the B City Accreditation Notice and Opportunity. I have a motion from Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Jay Dunbar. Whereas the goal of Bee City Canada designation is to promote healthy, sustainable habits and communities for pollinators, and that bees and other pollinators around the globe have experienced dramatic declines due to land fragmentation, habitat loss, use of pesticides, industrialized agriculture, climate change, and the spread of pests and diseases, with serious implications for the future health of flora and fauna. And that Blind River and its residents have the opportunity to support bees and other pollinators on both public and private land, and that supporting pollinators fosters environmental awareness and sustainability and increases interaction and engagement among community stewards, and that by becoming a bee city, the town of Blind River can highlight initiatives already in place and further engage local communities in an environment of creativity and innovation, which will promote a healthier life for our community, and that staff be authorized to submit the Bee City Canada application to designate Blind River as a bee city. Therefore be it resolved that the town of Blind River accept the designation and commits to the standards of the Bee City Canada program. Discussion. Councillor Roy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wondering what their policies are. Like, we're going to commit to this. They're bringing in bees. They're going to let them fly around, or are we making a hive, or what are we doing? I mean, I understand, like, there's a guy down the road with a hive. His bees are always here. I tell him I should get a discount on my honey, right? Because they're using my flowers. But anyway, so what are we doing exactly with it? Maybe Karen or Miss Bittner, pardon me, could maybe give me a little more insight on that.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Roy, what we're doing is representing Blind River as a bee-friendly community. We're not bringing in any bees. What we're doing is joining a Canada-wide accredited community status that shows that council and the residents are in tune to protecting their wildlife.
Thank you, Ms. Bittner. Are there any other questions for Ms. Bittner on this report and on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? And opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. Moving on, we have no service delivery reports, and we have no presentation of committee reports, and we have no unfinished business. So we're on to number 13 on our agenda. August 11th, we received correspondence from the Hensey Board, re-council representation, and we have an opportunity for discussion. Would council like to appoint anyone? Councillor Dunbar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I may have inquired and was asked by the BAC who sought me out along with other Hensey members, but I'm looking at the report, and as you can see, they were saying that the BAC present members of the Advisory Council had raised some concerns regarding accountability, community membership, and a need for a broadband champion. Well, by no means did I inform them that I would be their broadband champion. But as a community member, they're saying they would like to see required to help drive the initiative, potentially a minimum of 4 representatives from the Hensey member communities, with 1 representative per community. I was enticed by this with my background in telecommunications, and I'd be more than happy to sit on this BAC. I believe it's an ad hoc of some sort committee. It's BAC stands for, I believe it's Broadband Advisory Council. So other than that, I'd be willing to submit my name to the BAC to represent Blind River. Now, I was under the understanding that Councillor Dunbar, B. Dunbar, and Councillor Summers were involved with the Hensey, and I didn't or did not know that whether or not they had Councillor Summers was appointed to the BAC, and I don't know if she was or if she was just acting as a backup Hensey member for Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar. But it make the long story short, Madam Mayor, I'd have no problem attending these meetings. And I'm hoping, along with further community members, as they're asking for here. So, and I'd be bringing you back information that would transpire at the BAC meetings.
Thank you for putting your name forward, Councillor Dunbar. I'm just wondering, before we go to the other hands, I see Councillor Wells and Councillor Roy. I would ask for our Hensey representative, Councillor B. Dunbar, to maybe enlighten council as to where this is coming from. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The committee, it's a working group, a committee, an ad hoc committee. Both Paula and I were appointed as representatives for Huron North, as council representatives on the Huron North membership, whereas the ad hoc committee, like the broadband committee, and we're hoping to have other committees. There will be tourism, there will be agriculture, there'll be other committees throughout the next couple of years, that we would hope that anyone who has any background or interest in would certainly come forward and, bring their expertise to the table. And that was what they asked for when they sent out that correspondence saying we'd like some community representation. They weren't saying we want council representation, we want community representation. So if there was someone in Blind River who had a background or had an interest in furthering broadband in our area, then, would you step forward? So yes, that's where it came from.
Thank you, Councillor B. Dunbar. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. I had my hand up there earlier. I was about to suggest that Councillor J. Dunbar's name be inserted in that resolution when he graciously indicated that he would be willing to serve in this capacity anyway. So I would like to suggest that Councillor J. Dunbar be our representative on the broadband task force as our representative.
Thank you for that. And was there any other hands that I may have missed? Councillor Summers?
Just for clarification, I was on the original committee. I was actually appointed by council to be on the committee, and we had done our work, and then once we were finished, it was more or less dissolved is what my understanding was. So when Councillor Dunbar was gracious enough to bring his expertise on board, I was more than happy to pass it over to him, because I feel that I don't really know enough about it, and it was a little bit over my head. So I think it's a really good choice to have him on there.
Thank you for that, Councillor Summers. And Councillor Roy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just going to second that Councillor Dunbar would be a very good fit for this. So I'll second Councillor Wells' proposal here.
All right, I can read the motion. Moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor B. Dunbar. Be it resolved that council appoint Councillor J. Dunbar to Hensey Broadband Task Team as Blind River's representative. All in favor of this motion? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. And we have a motion with regards to Leroy Construction and high-speed internet partnership in the industrial plan. We have a motion moved by Councillor Roy, seconded by Councillor Pastorero. Whereas Blind River has limited access to high-speed internet, and whereas council recognizes that high-speed internet is required to efficiently operate a business in today's global economy, therefore be it resolved that council authorize the CAO clerk to investigate the cost of providing high-speed internet to service the Blind River Industrial Park. Discussion. Councillor Dunbar, followed by Councillor Pastorero.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. I mean, I do realize in today's businesses, the need for the high speed or the larger broadband, but I don't really understand what to ensure a high speed network is available. I mean, along with a service lot from years gone by, I mean, you got water, sewer, hydro, and telephone. And I believe all those four are there, though the high speed is limited. It is also there also. But my question is, what exactly does he mean by a partner? Partner in, if maybe the CAO might have some insight on this.
Thank you, Councillor Dunbar. Ms. Scott, do you have something you can add to the conversation?
I haven't had a conversation with Leroy recently, but previously they did reach out requesting that the town partner with money to provide the service to the park for the 2 facilities that are currently there. And when we initially looked at that, it was upwards of over 60,000. I don't have that amount today with me. It was quite a while ago. It might have been 2 years ago now.
Thank you. And Councillor Pastorero.
I'm very glad we have a new champion, and I know that Jim will do everything in his power, as he's always diligent with everything. However, after reading the letter from Mr. Roy, I'm concerned that they're placing all of the burden on the infrastructure on the municipality when this is a shared governmental responsibility, and more so the responsibility lies with provincial government. So I would probably recommend to Mr. Roy that he contact the Honorable Laurie Scott, who's the Minister of Infrastructure, as this is a cause that they're championing right now. So maybe more of our residents, if they do get those concerns to the right person, maybe they'll see that there's a definite need. I foresee in the near future that broadband will be deemed an essential service. Even in our AMO conference that we were just at. So one of the concurrent sessions that was the undeniable need for broadband connectivity in a pandemic world. So that was an interesting one. And it just highlighted the fact that municipalities, especially small ones like ourselves, we're not going to be able to afford this infrastructure by ourselves. We're not going to be able to have a municipally funded broadband service. The financial implications of that are just far too great. So I think maybe a little education on who the right government to get in touch with, to be a partner, especially when it comes to money right now. It lays more in the provincial government. Yes, I know municipalities do have a role to play as well, but I would say forward that to our provincial counterparts in government. And the other thing at the end of the letter, when it says that it was supposed to be fully serviced, there is internet, so it is a service. So the fact that it's not fast enough, that's something that a lot of our residents are facing. And again, in these pandemic times, we now see that broadband is essential service. So we need more advocacy and pressure on all levels of government.
Pastorero. Are there any other comments? Councillor J. Dunbar?
Can I back out of that last appointment and submit Councillor Pastorero's name?
I think that was a compliment, Councillor Pastorero.
I know.
I trust you, Jim.
Would council like to move forward with this vote at this time? Seeing no answers, I will say all in favor of this motion and all against this motion. And that motion is defeated. Thank you. Moving on to 13.3, we have a presentation, a letter from the Rotary Club. We have a motion from Councillor P. Summers, seconded by Councillor J. Dunbar. Whereas the community lost a valuable volunteer this year, and whereas the Rotary Club of Blind River would like to honor B. Jensen for her tireless contributions to the community by constructing a memorial gazebo at Sellers Park, therefore be it resolved that Council accept in principle the proposal from the Blind River Rotary Club, and that the Director of Facilities and Community Services liaise with the Rotary Club on that community project, and that Council authorize a contribution of $1,000 from the 2020 Council budget, and that Council authorize an in-kind contribution to prep the site for the gazebo. Discussion. Councillor Wells, followed by Councillor Summers.
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. I've often thought that, well, first of all, let me say that Sellers Beach is looking a lot better this year than it has for many years, although I haven't been there within the last couple of days considering the high water levels we've been having. But I've often thought that that location is one that almost cries out for a gazebo, some interesting piece of architecture there, just to make it even more attractive to our residents. I had a look at the letter from the Rotary, and there was some suggestion that they would be using volunteer labor and so on to work on it. I guess my concern is, and I'm supposed this is, don't want to be operational here, but obviously we would probably have to assist them in some capacity with regard to the engineering, because we could not have a gazebo on municipal property without having it properly engineered. So, but I do think that would be a suitable way of recognizing the contribution of the B to our community over the years.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Summers.
I was going to say something similar to that. My other comment was, as far as the base work and stuff, I'm just wondering what kind of costs we're looking at to do that type of work, as well as donating the $1,000. I mean, it's still going to be monies that would be charged out to us, I think, how it usually works. So I'm just curious what that would cost as well.
Thank you, Councillor Summers. And I would like to advise Council that the Cameco has graciously donated $5,000 to this project. I do have one concern. The Rotary had outlined that they wanted to put the gazebo by the road directly across from where the physician's house is, and that is the house where the physicians stay when they're in town. My concern for the residents that are along Lakeside, directly across from the gazebo, will be, their view will be impeded. I would like to see the gazebo placed beside the washroom facility, if at all possible, so that it lines up along the hedge. Definitely happy to see that something is being recognized, that we are building a building in recognition of B. Jensen and her hours that she has donated time to our community. But as I say, I have a concern about where the gazebo is placed. The existing diagrams that they have included has a high peaked roof, which will definitely impede the view of the neighborhood. So I think that we just might maybe leave it with Ms. Bittner to work with the Rotary on a location that would be suitable and not anger residents across the road. Councillor Roy, followed by Councillor Dunbar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I see your point, and I know that if I was sitting across from waterfront, then I would hate to have somebody build and block my view. But it's not up to the property owner from across the road to complain that somebody built a building on the adjacent property that we own. I think that wherever it fits the best is where it should be, not necessarily out of sight so that the people across the road have a view. The town has built different things around town that maybe block other people's view. You know, there's a place across the road from my house that isn't very nice. If somebody is to build there, you know, it might look a little better. But I can't control that. I'm not that property owner. So all I'm saying is let's find a proper location for this where it fits the best. And it shouldn't really be, it's not a sightline thing because it's not a safety thing. It has nothing to do with, you know, the guy can't pull out of his driveway because the building is there. So as far as I'm concerned, wherever it fits the best is where it should be. And if it's away so that, you know, he does have a proper sight line to the big lake, great, good for him. But that isn't the, you know, like we shouldn't be even looking at that, because then every time we build something, the neighbor across the road should be telling us, I don't like where that is because now I can't see that tree that I looked at for 20 years. Just being the devil's advocate here. So.
Thank you, Councillor Roy. Councillor Jay Dunbar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too have the same sentiments as yourself about the impediment possibilities. But along Councillor Roy's line, you know, I think the old saying is, I'll take this under consideration and I'll get back to you on this. This is possibly one of these ones where wherever the best fit is, sure, I can go along with that. But everyone here, if you haven't been around here long enough, as some of us have, you know darn well, you go ahead and you put up some impediment, and it's not a matter of ours and theirs, but I mean, you can take it under consideration. That's all I would ask for. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dunbar. Are there any other comments? Or I'm not seeing any hands going up, so all in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. And we have an information item on the transition blue box summary. Are there any questions on that correspondence? Seeing none, moving on to the Ministry of Transportation has given us a highway traffic amendments related to school bus stop armed cameras. Are there any questions on that item? And we have an information item, a thank you from All Star Services on our July 1st activities, and we also thank them for their part in the activity. We have the North Shore Power Group monthly report as it relates to the generating statement. Are there any questions on the report? We have the ISIP Culture Community Center renovations, and are there any questions on that report? We have the Phenom media release on Broadman, which comes back to Mr. Dunbar's appointment and their support as well. And we have the OPP Financial Services January to June 2020 detachment revenues shown. And last but not least, we also have correspondence from Mayor Bilodeau broadband and the update number 2. So that completes our correspondence and information. I received no notices of motion for tonight's meeting. So moving on to introduction and consideration of bylaws. I have a motion from Councillor Roy, seconded by Councillor B. Dunbar. Be it resolved that Council authorize the Mayor and CAO Clerk to sign bylaw 20-34, being a bylaw of the Corporation of the Town of Blind River, to enter into an agreement with Beamish Construction for the improvements on Murray Street, was passed in open council this 8th day of September 2020. Discussion? All in favor of this motion? Opposed? And that's carried. And for reports and announcements, were there any questions on my report on the AMO conference? Once again, I'd like to thank, Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. I read your report with interest, and I sensed that you feel that in a virtual world, this AMO conference may not have been as satisfying as you expected it to be. And I did note that your suggestion that maybe in the future, if it's done virtually again, that perhaps we should only have one delegate, because as you did note, many of the workshops and speakers are available at the AMO site anyway. I'm wondering if you have any information, though, about the reasons why the speech by the leader of the Green Party of Ontario was not available on the website, at least at the time of your writing of this report.
To answer your question, Councillor Wells, unfortunately, for all of us, it is too bad that his speech wasn't on. I didn't get any answers to my questions from AMO to date. If I do get an answer, I will certainly update you. And Councillor Pastorero was also on the AMO conference, so I will also turn it over to her.
Thanks, Mayor Hagman. So yeah, and if you just go on the AMO website, they do have some of the concurrent, which I found to be more informative than the plenary sessions. Like Mayor Hagman said, it was a disappointing first AMO because they definitely put a lot of work into it. The technology was fantastic. But again, just sitting in front of a screen for several hours for the day, it sounded more like a campaign speech than helping municipalities learn ways to tackle the things. But some of the better concurrent ones that I watched were, again, the broadband one, the undeniable need for broadband, because that's huge right now. The one that I liked and is so prevalent right now is legal strategies to address racism and racial discrimination. So where it really went into ensuring that we're looking at equity, diversity, inclusion in the Human Rights Code, and looking at intersectionality, and that we're ensuring that everyone is included and that we're not violating any human rights. And it was an amazing lawyer from Hicks Morley, and she was just really good. So that's one that I would recommend that you watch. And again, like the ones that are hidden, we have the codes to get in. So if you are interested in any of those concurrent sessions, some of them are more valuable than other. And I thought it was interesting, the broadband one. We had that presentation from the people talking about having the community own broadband. And when you look at places like Caledon and larger centers that have populations of 70,000, saying it's not even conceivable for them to think of a locally owned ISP. I feel more secure in our council's decision, maybe not to pursue that avenue, and that really we need to put our champion to work there to advocate to make broadband an essential service, especially for rural customers. So there we have like businesses out in just a few like minutes down the road that don't have good broadband, and when our healthcare depends on it, our education depends on it, so many things depend on it. It's really important that we pursue advocacy. So yeah, so I would definitely recommend those two. Another one was fighting climate change and cutting food waste. So again, it was a first time, so I'm hoping that maybe in the future I'll get to do an in-person one. So thank you again, Council, for allowing me to go.
Thank you, Councillor Pastorero. Are there any other questions on the AMO conference? And we do appreciate council support in sending us to register. And as we said, you are also able to get on board AMO's website and view the sessions if you so choose. So moving on, I have no addendums, and we are going to go into the closed session of the meeting. I have a motion from Councillor B. Dunbar, seconded by Councillor J. Dunbar. Be it resolved that council go into a closed meeting at 8:42 p.m. in accordance with Section 239 of the Municipal Act in order to address matters related to personnel and property concerns. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. And I remind council to go back to your emails for your closed Zoom instructions. And I leave the public now. Thank you.